Okay, everybody, on to chapter 9. Quick recap. Phone calls were made, blood was drank, and now they're gonna go see the PI, the dude who kissed Jazz in the bathroom. Alright, let's go. Let's do this. Chapter 9. When this whole mission ended, I suspected that if I survived, Pete would demote my ride to a used moped. Not great motivation to push the self-preservation button, but at the moment I didn't care. My local Mercedes dealer had brought me a dark blue C230 sports sedan that made even New Year's traffic bearable. The car hummed like a Broadway star. I joined right in, and the two of us sang a duet Stephen Sondheim would have tapped his foot to while we motored down the sparkling streets of Miami. I don't know what that means. I would ask you how you feel, said Vale, but it's so obvious. It's amazing, I told him. I just wanted to hug everyone. I want to go buy the guy who engineered this car a bottle of champagne. I want to fly. Hey, I turned to Vale, after this meeting, let's go hang gliding. In the dark? It's a full moon. I stopped at the light, flying forgotten, as a burgundy minivan pulled up beside me. I have never seen that shade of red before. Can you see all those gold flecks of gold? Can you see all those flecks of gold and black in it? Yes, Vale answered, his smile more full and natural than I'd ever seen it. I take it you are enjoying this part of the change? Oh, is that what it is? The minivan activated its blinker and began to inch into my lane. Looks like he's a little lost, I commented as I waved for him to slip in ahead of us. You know, yesterday you would have cursed that man for 10 minutes solid for delaying us, Vale observed. Yeah, yesterday. I feel different than I did then. Slight raise of the eyebrow, signaling immense sarcasm. No, really? Will this last? I have no idea. I followed the minivan for several blocks, then took a right onto the street that led to Umberto's. So, tell me what you did today other than work activities, Phil suggested. How did you spend your free time? I had to think a minute, dig out my mental binoculars to see past the blackout and the moments before it. Why was it so hard to recognize the woman who'd spent most of her daylight hours clicking through encrypted files, looking for dirt on politicians like some commie hunting throwback? Stardust in your eyes, sister, only now it's time to blink. So I began talking, starting with the family phone calls, but they required a backstory, and that took a while, especially since I kept pausing to point out a fab new color I'd discovered. Eventually, I worked my way back around to the research I'd done, specifically the background stuff I'd gathered on our oversight committee. See? We didn't even need those last few chapters. Just Did you come up with any conclusions? He asked after I finally finished talking. I shrugged. All the senators are suspect because they all seem way too innocent. Doris Fallon gives away tons of scholarship money every year. Dirk Tread is a true blue war hero, and Tom Bazowski was an extremely popular quarterback in the NFL before he shattered his knee. I didn't tell him I'd stared at their publicity photos for hours on end, trying to see behind the facade. It didn't bother me so much that one of them had tried to eliminate us. We knew the risk when we signed on. But to put the lives of the citizens of your own country into the hands of monsters and terrorists, to be honest, the more I thought about it, the readier I was to nail said senator to the wall with a telephone pole. And then there is Martha, said Bill. I shook my head. Man, I hope it's not her. Bill put his hand on my arm. You must accept that someone in your inner circle could betray you. Oh, I accept it. I just know, of all of our suspects, if Martha's a rotten link, there's no doubt we'll come out of this bruised and bloody. You mean you prefer the senators? Absolutely. They can't be nearly as mean, conniving, vicious, and underhanded as Martha. She is an excellent secretary, isn't she? The best. Oh, the lovely dialogue in this book. It's so enlightening. Umberto's is an Italian restaurant located in a miniature pink castle, only it wasn't exactly pink. It shimmered with shades of silver and rose, too. I'm beginning to like that color, I murmured as I pulled into the parking lot, picking a spot where we could exit quickly. I swallowed hard on a spurt of nerve-induced nausea. This whole meeting could go south in a heartbeat if Vale and Cole got to feeling competitive. And it would be my fault for not controlling my hormones better. You didn't kiss him. He fucking kissed you. Damn chemicals. Why couldn't our bodies run on something simpler, like coal? An image rose in my mind of Vale and me walking around belching black smoke rings. I laughed inwardly. Wouldn't that change the world, though? Everybody would have automatic dental coverage just to keep their teeth from looking like the inside of a chimney. And we'd be recycling our solid waste because sludge makes such and we'd be recycling our solid waste because sludge makes such nifty ashtrays. Would you care to share? Asked Vale as we headed for the restaurant entrance, his cane hitting the asphalt every other step with a reassuring clink. Huh? You are smiling. Oh, so I told them what I'd been thinking, and we were both chuckling when we came to the door and met Cole, who stood waiting for us. He covered well, but I could tell he wasn't pleased to see Vale and me sharing a laugh. This dude met you in the bathroom of a party. That's it. You shared a kiss. That is a red flag. That reminds me of Christian Grey. Like, who the fuck are you, dude? She could laugh at whoever the fuck she pleases. Damn it, I know in other places kisses don't mean much. Shoot, in Hollywood they do inconsequential smooching all the time. But to Cole and most other people in the real world, kisses are significant gestures, not something you play with as I had. Again. Oh my god, I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna. I bit my lip, forgot I was still healing from the last bite, and nearly made myself cry. So much for my post-donation high. The express elevator Vale had taken me on came to abrupt halt. The jolt left me with a roaring in my ears and a major craving for chocolate chip cookies, followed by a good hour of car shuffling. Cole, this is my partner, Jeremy Bain. Jeremy, this is Cole Beaumont. Vale held out his hand. Pleased to meet you. Likewise, said Cole. They shook. I waited for Cole to wince, but Vale reined in his bone-crushing strength. I sighed with relief. The hostess showed us to a booth in a corner lit by a couple of candles and a low-wattage recessed bulb. The decor diverted me enough to make me stop kicking myself and enjoy it. The carpet sparkled with every hue of green imaginable. It contrasted nicely with the white tablecloths and folded napkins. The menu covers felt like real leather. So did the cushioned seats. Vale and I sat across from Cole. We ordered drinks, Diet Coke for me, beer on tap for the guys. And the hostess left. Lucille tells me you are a private investigator, said Vale. I expected Cole to squirm under Vale's icy blue gaze. He didn't, and I liked him better for it. Crap. That's right, he said, although it's not turning out to be what I expected. No? Cole shrugged. It's pretty mundane, and I'm not always sure I'm helping the good guys. I spoke up. Well, let me assure you that you are... Sorry. So let me assure you that we are the good guys. Yeah? I looked at Vale and he nodded, so I took out my ID and slid it across the table. Cole opened it, studied it for quite some time. I had a feeling you weren't just another rich snob, he told me. Despite the fact that he wore white Nikes with black dress pants, his hair looked like he just stepped out of a hurricane, and he smelled of citrus gum. Cole suddenly looked all grown up as he slid my badge back to me. I slipped it back into my jacket. Our drinks came, we ordered supper, and the waitress left. Was that necessary? So, Cole, I began, what happened to you? Huh? Your neck. He nodded at the bandage. I'd completely forgotten about it. My hand flew up to it as if I could hide it from him. Vale bumped his leg against mine. Oh, that, I smiled because Lucille would have. I burned myself with my curling iron. 2nd degree. Cole nodded, apparently satisfied. You were saying? Okay. We've been investigating Hassan for a while now, and we're sure he's a big hitter in a terrorist group called the Sons of Paradise. We know he's performed surgery on fugitives. We know he has a powerful new partner and a plan of attack that could threaten the entire nation, maybe even the world. We think the documents we need to stop him and his partner are in the house. Cole whistled in disbelief. And you think I can get them for you? Vale sat forward. Possibly. We hope you can at least provide us with information. You do, after all, have a connection on the inside. Cole locked his hands together and played thumb wars with himself for a few seconds while he processed. I don't think Amanda knows anything about her husband's shadow life. She sure wouldn't have hired me if she did. We need access to her house, especially to her husband's office, I said, hating that I had to push. But we don't want to spook her. No telling which side she'd land on if she knew the truth. All we want is for you to convince her that, to help further your investigation, you and your partner need to take a look inside his desk, his computer, and his safe. My partner? I nodded. That would be me. Our food came. Cole started stabbing at his lasagna. Vale and I traded looks. What's wrong? I asked. You already have a partner. Crap. Fuck you, dude. Bill nudged me. If you will excuse me, he said, I think I will go wash my hands. I let him out of the booth. Cole didn't exactly glare at his back as he left, but I got a feeling he would have liked to. Cole, I sank back into the seat. Last night, kissing you was the closest I've been to a relationship in a while. You make that sound like a bad thing. Crap in a bucket. We had only traded spit, that's all, and now he thinks he deserved an explanation? Thank you. Thank you. Worse yet, so did I. I took a deep breath. His hands, exhausted from thumb wars, rested on the table. I put mine over them. Cole. I stopped. Had to. Memories exploded out of the suitcase. I generally kept them locked in. Voices, screaming, blood, some of it mine. A surging black hatred that nearly swallowed me whole. No way could I put all this into words. No way could I take anyone else back into the hell I still visited in nightmares. So I gave Cole a sketch, knowing he would never imagine the full picture. About 14 months ago, I was a Hellsinger. Are you familiar with the term? Cole nodded slowly. Yeah, he said, straightening in his seat as I'd just called him to attention. Hellsingers are an elite team of vampire killers, named for Dracula's nemesis, Dr. Van Helsing. Excellent, I said. He responded to my praise like any good student would, with a smile and a satisfied little nod. We didn't start out as a tight-knit group, I told him, but we ended up that way. There were 10 of us in all. I fell for a hard-charging former Navy SEAL named Matthew Stay. My brother David was on the team too. That's how he met Jessie Disco, and when he married her it seemed perfect because we were already like sisters. Cole turned his hands so that they held mine and squeezed. It was a little depressing holding his hands because he would soon come to understand why I was so dangerous to touch. Some of what happened to my Hellsingers on the night my life changed forever is classified. Some I just don't remember. Here's what I can tell you. We spent the day clearing out a nest in West Virginia, but we missed the vultures. That's what we called the leaders. They holed up so deep we couldn't find their resting places before dark, and we didn't dare stay longer without our own vamps there to back us up. Tangents. I love 'em. They keep you at a safe distance from painful subjects, but this was one train I needed to keep on track. Anyway, they came back for us that night before we had time to regroup. By the next morning, the only crew members left breathing were me and my twin, and David only survived because he wasn't there. He was in the hospital, sidelined with 2 broken ribs with the previous mission. Jesus. Oh, and you can bet stopped talking to him that night. I lost my team, my fiance, my sister-in-law, and my brother blamed me for all of it. It was my crew after all, my responsibility to see they got home safe after every mission. Like a tired old dam, my throat began to ache from holding back the torrent of tears that threatened to drown me if I released them. I finished as fast as I could. So you can see why I can't have a relationship with anyone, especially a nice, normal guy like you. A guy stays with me long enough, he will die. Unless he's a vampire, said Cole. Cole stopped my fabricated reply with a raised hand. I know Vale's a vamp, Lucille. I can smell it on him. You're sensitive? Yep. But how? I mean, were you born that way, or... I stopped because he was shaking his head. His own bad memories were beginning to make his palms sweat. He squeezed my hands and faked a smile. I was born in New York, he told me, just outside of Buffalo. Lived there till I was 6 in an old white farmhouse with an actual barn and a pond out back. My brothers and I were skating on the pond one fine January afternoon when I fell through the ice. I was under the water for 15 minutes before the fireman fished me out. So, you died? Yeah, he was trying to act casual in case I began to scoff at his life-altering experience, as if I could after what I'd survived. Was it awful? I shrugged. I don't remember. The doctor said kids will do that when an event is too traumatic to bear. I guess it's still too much for me, but afterward, he leaned forward, eager now that he knew I'd listen. It was like you could hear about... It was like you hear about in church, Lucille. There was a light, and then my grandpa was there waiting for me, and he had my dog Splinter with him. It was... His eyes shone, making me smile. Absolutely fabulous. Fabulous. And then you came back? I could sense vampires and other things that ran in the woods east of my house. Between that and the horror of almost losing me, my parents decided for a new ice-free scene. His gesture encompassing the whole state when he said, "So here I am." I nodded, my neck creaking under the weight of this new information. I wanted to ask a dozen more questions, because Cole was the first of my kind I'd ever gotten to talk to like this, but he beat me to it. So why did you let him bite you?" he asked. My hand flew back to the bandages as if it were magnetized. "That's none of your business." I took the time to blow an orange bubble and pop it before he said, "No, but it's the price I'm asking if you want me to help you out." I stared at him, reframing this new picture of him so that it fit with what I'd already seen. That's very personal, I said. I know. What a fucking dick. Cole dropped his eyes to our intertwined hands, feeling a little guilty. Maybe, but not enough to back off. Tell you what, you give me an honest answer and I'll give you the real truth about why I'm working for Amanda Hassan. Suddenly I felt like it was my bet in a game of high-stakes poker. I looked closely at Cole, trying to interpret his intentions, but his face, usually so much more expressive than Vale's, gave nothing away. Did he have a straight flush or a pair of twos? Okay, Cole, I said. I'm all in. But if I get my butt kicked on this deal, I'm sharing the pain. Fair enough, he said, trying to hide his triumphant little smirk. So, why'd you do it? Maybe I could have given him the party line and he'd have bought it. I might have convinced him with the argument that had swayed Vale, but people rarely ask me for the truth, and when they do, I felt compelled to give it to them. Part of me just wanted to know what it was like, I told him. Part of me wanted to feel that vital, to know that without me, Vale would have lost more than his life. He'd have lost that navigational beacon that lands him on our side of the wall. Because there's nothing more demonic than a starving vamp, and part of me, whoa, this is going to be embarrassing, just wanted to be close, to be connected to somebody. Like I said, it's been a while. Cole grinned and brought my hands to his lips. Then maybe I have a chance after all. I rolled my eyes. Do you ever stop? He appeared to think about the question. Not often, his grin said. I'm wicked fun. Women are my passion, my weakness, and my joy, and you, he kissed my hands again, are a paragon among them. You make me sound like some blue-haired preacher's wife. His grin twisted. God forbid. I took my hands back, settling Sarah down on my finger from where it had twisted up to my knuckle. I did my bit. Now tell me why you're working for Amanda Hassan. I thought he saw maybe rearrange the salt and pepper shakers or file the sweeteners by color, but he came right out and said it. I'm a PI, but my specialty is supernatural crime. Amanda's brother, Michael, died 6 months ago in India. He was traveling with Hassan at the time. She thinks he might have had something to do with it. Just because he was there at the time, or... It was a combination of things. Hassan didn't show much remorse for her brothers or sympathy for her. Plus, the circumstances of his death are odd, and Hassan's explanation came out sounding pretty lame. In what way? Michael died of a single stab wound through the heart. The weapon, according to the coroner, was an ancient sword of unknown origin. Hassan collects swords. Also, symbols were found burned into the skin around Michael's wound. How the fuck would the coroner know if it was a ancient... How would the coroner know that it was an ancient sword of unknown origin that stabbed the dude through the heart? Like, it could have been a dagger. Jesus. This book is so fucking stupid. Also, symbols were found burned into the skin around Michael's wound. What kind? Magical as far as I can decipher, but I'm no expert and my sources haven't been able to translate them. I draw them for you, but... Oh. He caught our waitress's eye and signaled her over. She found him a pen and some paper and left us after we assured her we didn't need any refills. While he sketched the symbols for me, Cole said, Hassan was in India to give a presentation at a conference on reconstructive surgery. He said Michael, who'd also been a plastic surgeon, had wandered off during one of the meetings. And when he still hadn't returned the next morning, Hassan reported him missing. He waited long enough, didn't he? Yep, and the meeting Michael left was the one he discussed with Amanda. He told her it would make the entire trip worthwhile. Yeah, the whole deal sounded about as fishy as a tuna factory. Cole went on. The icing is that some poor guy who thought he needed an early morning jog found a torso on the beach last week. Sharks had swallowed a lot of the evidence, but according to a friend of mine who works homicide, the victim had been murdered by a single stab wound to the heart and around the wound. And around the wounds, glyphs, I finished. He nodded. The same as these? Yep. So I'm guessing this is somebody else also murdered the same way? Wonder what Vale would think of them. I ignored Cole's frown as I studied his drawings. Then it struck me that Vale had been gone much longer than even an arranged absence should take. Where is he? I asked, peering through the atmospheric gloom. Suddenly the hair on the back of my neck stood up in response to the ripple of power that rolled across the room. Did you feel that? Asked Cole. He nodded, looking grave and a little shaken. I slid out of the booth. I think I said, "Excuse me, but I'm not sure." The power called me with an urgency I'd never experienced before. It came from the other side of the restaurant. That's where I headed, followed closely by Cole. "Bill," I whispered, "where are you?" I smelled it before I felt it, a revolting combination of rotten eggs and ash that lashed my inner senses like a lion tamer's whip. The magic snapped past me, leaving me mentally singed as if I'd stood too close to a burning soul. At least I knew now Bill wasn't its source. His power had never made me want to shower in bleach water. This came from an altogether different sort of vampire. I turned, searching for the vamp's target. I found him almost immediately, a spectacled, balding man in his mid-30s with the soft face and hands of someone who hires out his yard work. He sat at a table with three other people, presumably his wife and sons. They stared at him in speechless shock as he clawed at his throat, his face turning a shade of red I've never seen before tonight. "Charlie? What's wrong?" The woman half rose from her chair, but Charlie was way ahead of her. He jerked to his feet, toppling his chair backward in the process. Now the other patrons had stopped talking and turned to look. "I think he's choking!" screeched an elderly woman whose ebony cane might have been related to Vale's. I expected Charlie to nod, but his hands had moved his chest, pressed flat against it as if to keep his innards from revolting and becoming his outers. The kids, two blonde-headed cuties about 7 and 9, sat absolutely still, but I noticed they were clutching each other's hands. Somebody yelled, "Call 911!" and the whole room erupted, everyone talking at once, the woman screaming, "Charlie! Charlie!" and people from my side of the room rushing over to get a better look. Charlie keeled over, still holding his chest, and I felt the power flare out so quickly I could almost believe someone had pulled the plug. Almost. I needed to find Vale. We needed to locate Charlie's attacker, but before I could act, Charlie himself stopped me. He lay on the floor, his eyes open and yet empty as marbles. I had seen a lot of dead guys in my time, and Charlie had definitely joined the club, but I'd never seen what happened next. This dazzling light emerged from Charlie's body and hovered over it like morning mist. Only it looked more substantial. It was as if a Charlie-sized diamond had floated 3 feet off Umberto's carpet, each facet giving off its own unique color. Then, as if some cosmic hand had reached down and turned the wheel of a kaleidoscope, the diamond split, spun, and reformed. Now multiple jewels danced in the air above Charlie's body. A moment later they flew apart like a spectacular Chinese firework. One shot straight into the wife's mouth, quieting her immediately. One went to each boy, landing gently on their foreheads and then sinking out of sight. Several exited via windows, walls, and doors, and I suspected they'd find their way to his dearest friends and relatives tonight. The largest one shot straight through the ceiling, destination unknown, but I, jaded, cynical Jazz, was voting for heaven. "That is some amazing backwash you've got there, Vale," I murmured. "What?" I turned to look, and there he stood, not 3 feet from me, watching the action from a small nook formed by a ceiling-high rubber tree plant and the corner of the bathroom entryway. His power at its usual simmer. Most people would have looked straight at him and never seen a thing. Nobody was looking but me, however, so I was the only one who saw him solidify. It was like watching a computer sketch fill with color. One moment he was a chalk drawing, the next he was a stern, handsome gentleman admiring greenery. "Vale," I began, but Cole stepped up, yanking Vale's sleeve so he would turn and face us. "Who did this?" he demanded. "Who just killed that man while you stood and watched?" "It is not my place to interfere." "God damn it! This is not a National Geographic special. You're not supposed to huddle in bushes and film the lions killing the zebras. You're supposed to kill the lions." "We are the lions," Vale corrected, "and we must be extremely careful before we challenge another pride. The odds must be in our favor. Yes?" Cole looked ready to go caveman on Vale's head. "Yes," I said, taking Cole's hand and squeezing it until he turned his attention to me. "To kill from a distance," I shook my head. "That's badass power, Cole. You don't just jump in the path of that, not unless you want to get seriously maimed." "Who are you people?" Cole whispered. Vale and I shared a stony look and a chilling silence. Though John Q. Public knew he existed, he rarely wanted to be reminded. We were thinking Cole would feel the same. A couple of EMTs arrived and Charlie left on a mobile bed, with his stunned family trailing behind. Umberto's manager finally convinced everyone to return their receipts, offering half off their dinners to keep them from bolting. It pretty much worked. "Cole?" I turned to him, took a deep breath, and said a mental goodbye. "Get out. Get out, get out, get out." "Now wait a minute," Cole said. Cole and Vale chorused, looking at each other with a consternation as they realized they shared the same opinion. "Have you ever fought a vampire?" asked Cole. "No, but then there's no point in staying, is there? Get out while you still have your humanity." "But what about—" "We'll call you, okay?" I said, not meaning it, hoping I could talk Vale out of using Cole's connections, tempting though they were. My little hike down memory lane had reminded me too well how much it hurt to lose good people, and the longer I knew Cole, the more I knew he was good people. Just please take off before that vamp that killed Charlie realizes you're with us. He looked hard at me, trying to decipher my expression. Okay, I'll go, as soon as you give me your number. I started to argue, but like a magician sliding an ace out of his sleeve, Vale pulled out our business card and handed it to him. Cole read it out loud. Robinson Bain Antiquities, specializing in 18th century rarities. He looked at Vale. I guess you can do that when you had first-hand experience. Bill didn't even raise an eyebrow. I'd begun to think nothing surprised him, not even being outed as the vamp by P.I., who looked like he'd just jumped off his surfboard. Call us when you make arrangements with Amanda, Asan, Bill said. I will, Cole replied, giving me an I will return look. I nodded, hoping he'd pocket the card, forget where he put it, and wash it along with his pants. Then all he'd have left of me would be a wad of crumpled paper with some blurry writing on it. Before I realized what he was doing, Cole leaned in and stole another kiss. I'll see you, he said. He turned and left. Do people not know what fucking consent is? Like, really? Not sexy. Jasmine. Vale's voice had dropped and softened to a point where I barely recognized it. Vale? He looked like he'd woken up to find some vital part missing. He shook his head. Is the vampire still with us? Yeah. Let's take a walk then, shall we? Okay. We headed back to the table, taking a long way around the restaurant. As we walked, Vale spoke in a voice that only reached my ears. Perhaps you should get out as well. It took every bit of focus I possessed not to keel over right then and there. What the hell are you talking about? Your life, Jasmine. Your short, beautiful life. I recognized Vale's expression. It said, if you're going to break my heart, make it quick. The last guy who'd shown it to me had been my high school sweetheart the night I'd left him behind. Though I could tell he didn't want to, Vale kept talking. You wish to protect Cole from the very thing that defines your existence. What does it say about you? I define my existence. I told him through clenched teeth. I choose to be here now. Cole didn't have that choice. He just fell into it. That's a good way to drown. And he's already done that one too many times. Vale let it go. How much longer? Oh, thank God. We made it back to our seats with no extrasensory alarm going off in my head. The vamp must still be in the bar, I said as we sat, hoping my businesslike tone would calm us both. Move in or wait? I itched to deliver some old-school violence to Charlie's killer's table. Like action, that's what I needed. All this thinking was driving me nuts, but I knew what Vale would say. Wait. We waited. We made small talk. We ate. It's all part of the job in the end, and we tried to do the job well. Now that I knew the vamp's scent, I could differentiate it from Vale's much better than I had at first. It stayed in one place for another hour. Then it moved. We'd already paid the check, so we moved too. Still, we almost blew it. Like most vamps, this one came with an entourage, and the last of the group was stepping into a glistening black limo when we reached the parking lot. One of the first lessons I learned at the absence of my father's knee was that life isn't fair. Sometimes innocent little girls get stuck with dads who keep leaving and moms who hand out far too many whippings. And sometimes those are the very kids who grow up to learn that everybody leaves sooner or later, by chance or by death, and it's never fair. So though it wasn't fair at all, it was still true that the one guy still standing beside the limo possessed the ability to spot federal agents at a distance of 50 yards. Apparently he also had the ability to deal with them because he motioned for his three buddies to leave their seats and join him. They headed our way, the four of them stopping with about 15 paces left between us, what I like to refer to as dueling distance. It felt like the OK Corral on steroids. Sorry, guys. There they stood, making a formidable first impression even without the Tech 9s they held casually at their sides. I felt my skin tighten in alarm at the ease with which they carried those deadly weapons. These were guys who would shoot first and ask questions, never. Why was I ever scared of the monsters I thought were under my bed? I wondered. These are the real boogeymen. Despite the crisp January breeze, the goon who'd spotted us wore a sleeveless gray t-shirt, exposing massive tattooed biceps. Beside him stood a tall, red-headed man whose mustache grew down either side of his lip to his neck and further south until it disappeared into his chest hair. He had that look in his eye that said, I've killed things with shovels and enjoyed it. A bright red scar split the third man's right cheek into halves, the knife that had caused it also leaving behind one milky white eye to remind its owner to dodge a little sooner next time. The fourth man had Chinese eyes, a Russian weightlifter's physique, and an American biker's goatee. He grinned, revealing a couple of gold teeth, and pointed a long sheath-covered fingernail at my chest. You got a problem? He drawled, obviously expecting me to pee my pants before falling to the ground and groveling like an unworthy subject of the Emperor. And that was all it took. A new screw you attitude took precedence, trampling my fear under my boots. A highly dangerous approach. I still found it much easier to bear. Well, it goes all the way back to my childhood, I began, but the emergence from a limo of a black high-heel pump attached to a shapely stocking leg interrupted me. I don't like the looks of this, I murmured to Bill. He just grunted. He centered on the show now as the second leg joined the first. Silver sequins glittered as moonlight hit the hem of her knee-length dress. One elegant hand came out to grasp tattooed dude's paw, and the rest were finally appeared. Hey, look, Phil, I murmured. It's Vampire Barbie. From her waist-length platinum hair to her surgically enhanced boobs, she looked like she'd been plucked from some Hollywood director's fantasy. The neckline of her dress punched so deeply, I hoped she'd use the extra-strength lingerie tape. Her huge violet eyes slanted just slightly, enough to give her the exotic look of some chic's plaything. Get a load of this, I said. Perfect makeup, perfect nails, perfect figure. It makes me want to shove her headfirst into a steaming pile of horse crap. Why is it that you can never find a mounted policeman when you need one? Bill had no answers for me at all. He'd gone as still as a billboard photo. Do you know this woman? I asked him. When he didn't answer, I shook him. He looked at me, his eyes blank, dead. Who is she? Liliana, my late wife. There's that. Damn chapter finally ended. Some of the shittiest descriptions I've ever read. I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.